Golfer, referee, community leader, Dan Benson has worn many hats in the Gulf South Conference. From competing as a student athlete at West Georgia to returning to the conference as a certified soccer referee to leading efforts off the field through Mighty Hero Homes, Dan brings a unique perspective on what it means to serve and compete in the Gulf South. His story is next on Inside the GSC. Today on Inside the GSC, we're joined by Dan Benson, and Dan has had quite the track record when it comes to the Gulf South Conference. Dan has competed as a golfer at the University of West Georgia, and now he's back in the conference as a certified soccer referee. He's also working with Mighty Hero Homes as a director for their group, serving veterans and making an impact in his community. And this week is extra fitting as it is Officials Appreciation Week across the Gulf South Conference. So there's no better time to spotlight the referees who keep competition running in the highest standard. Dan, welcome aboard, and we thank you for taking some valuable time out of your busy schedule to be here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's I kind of mentioned this when we were chatting before going live. It's a full circle moment for me, being able to come to the US and compete in the Gulf South, and we were treated fantastically as student athletes, and now getting to officiate in the conference and go back to some of the places that we played at. We drive by schools on the way to golf tournaments, and so getting to see the campuses kind of in person has been really quite unique. So thanks for the conversation.
Absolutely, for sure. We're looking forward to a great episode here. To kick things off, no pun intended, what's it like moving from being a student athlete in the Gulf South Conference to now being on the other side and just enforcing rules as a referee?
Yeah, well, I'm going to start with the enforcing rules part. We like to, or at least I like to see myself more as a conduit to providing a safe playing environment, a competitive playing environment, and a positive one. I think oftentimes there are some officials that definitely like to enforce the rules. But sometimes it's okay to live in the gray area. And I think the cool thing about the Gulf South is that the players are from all over the world. Teams have got 7, 8, 9 different nationalities on each team. And so although in the NCAA we have our rules, what one player from Guatemala expects on the soccer pitch is completely different to what a player from England might expect. And so it's a really, really unique opportunity to find some gray areas where everyone can stay safe but enjoy and play competitive soccer. Going from being an athlete to an official, if you're a self-motivated person, the competition never stops. That's the beautiful thing about being an official. When I was in college, I was competing against my teammates for a spot in the starting lineup, and then competing against all the other student athletes as we traveled around playing tournaments. And now as an official, I'm competing against myself. How can I be in a better position to make a call? How can I communicate with this player better? How can I build a better relationship with the coach so that, when they're shouting at me, we're able to have a conversation where we can bring that temperature down a little bit. I didn't think that I would enjoy the competitive aspect of refereeing that much. I did it because it was a good bit of cash when I graduated and a way to stay involved in a game that I loved. But every time we step on the pitch, we're able to be 1%, 2%, 3% better than the time before. And so for a competitive person like me, it's been really cool because I'm not really competing against anyone else, but I am competing against myself, much like in golf,
And speaking of which, going back to your youth days and playing in golf tournaments and invitationals and getting to the point where you're at West Georgia, when we're thinking back to your time when you're playing with the Wolves and just competing during your time there, what stands out most about competing in the Gulf South Conference as that golfer?
I have tingles, which doesn't happen very often, but it's really cool to have some really great friends from my time in college. Shout out to Andrew Cronwright from West Alabama. Him and I became friends in a Gulf South championship when we were playing down in West Point, Georgia, when it was hosted there. And we hit it off. He's an Australian guy. And, if you know anything about the Australian-English rivalry, we had some good banter on the course, but now we're really good friends. When he comes over to the US, he stays with me, and he introduced me to another West Alabama tennis player who was a groomsman in my wedding. We've done business work together. Him and his wife, they come up and stay with us, and we go down and stay with them. They live in Pensacola. And so those memories of making friends that have lasted quite literally 10, 15 years, well, I guess 10 years now, that's the best part. That's my favorite memories. You know, the traveling was awesome, getting to see some new parts of the US, getting to play golf for free. You know, like we're literally able to play these beautiful golf courses for free. That's all fantastic. And in the moment, you know, you don't realize how lucky you are to be able to do that and to travel with your friends. But the lifelong friends that I made when playing in the Gulf South, not just from West Georgia, not just my teammates that I still get to keep up with. Sam Jones, who was a West Georgia athlete, he's now playing on the European tour. It's great to be friends with them, but the other friends that I made from other schools, it's really quite unique. I don't know many conferences that where like kind of cross-team friendships are formed, but the Gulf South did a great job with hosting events. When we're at a tournament, we actually got time to eat dinner with people and have fellowship with them, which I know a lot of other Division II conferences don't give their athletes the opportunity to do that. So it's really quite a fond memory of mine.
You know, it's amazing how you mentioned that, because as we're thinking about sports, just not in Division II, but just, you know, sports in general, every sport is a different dynamic, right? You know, you think about the team sports of basketball, soccer, and you don't have as many opportunities to connect with others on different teams because you're looking to try to win championships, and you're still trying to at golf as well. But I also think about even like sports like cross country and track and field as well, where is similar to golf. You're going and you're competing in matches, meets, races, and you're seeing similarly the same folks every time. And there's always a good camaraderie of folks. But to get to a point where you're rivals in golf and you build these long lasting relationships now, and to your point, I think that's a testament of what the Gulf South Conference has provided, are those relationships. But I think it is something worth noting that it's amazing what the sport of golf can do, and just those opportunities of meeting others. And it's not just about, oh, I'm going to try to get a lower score than you, or it's always about, you know, rivalries, enemies on the court, or on the green, and then all of a sudden everybody's buddies on the back. But it truly is the fundamentals of friendships, and just building even in competitiveness is something that I've always looked at as it's truly something amazing to look at.
Yeah, it is. I can't talk about too many other sports except, you know, I see on the soccer pitch now when I'm doing Gulf South games, you know, there's people from competing teams that when they're done with the game, you see them taking photos together, catching up. You know, we get to see, as you know, on the golf side, we see each other at most tournaments, or we saw each other at most tournaments. On the soccer side, they see each other a couple of times a year, and friendships are formed, right? When you're a center back marking a striker, and you might have a rivalry during the game, you might have some hard tackles go in, but to see the fact that these guys want to be friends afterwards and want to catch up and want to, you know, share stuff about themselves. Again, it's a testament to the coaches. It's a testament to the players that, like, after the game, they can mellow out a little bit and enjoy some time with one another and getting to know each other. And you see really cool friendships be formed like that.
That sort of does lead into my next question. How does being a student athlete from a golfing standpoint change the way you approach challenges today?
Oh, that's a good question. You didn't prep me with that one.
We like to keep you on your toes.
Yeah. Wow, I feel like I'm back on the pitch. That one was a surprise. Yeah, there's a few different things. You know, when you spend, I mean, we played 36 holes a day quite a lot in college. That's 10, 12 hours with somebody. You get really good at asking questions, or at least I got really good at asking questions because I hate silence. And so that translated into today, because there's no better way to build a relationship in a business perspective than by asking people questions and getting to know them, making them comfortable. And so I got the opportunities I have today because golf taught me how to communicate with people from a variety of different backgrounds, which allowed me to make some relationships with some people that invested in a business that I started when I graduated college, which allowed me to then make relationships with people from multiple different walks of lives as we sold our product. And then today, you know, I'm now able to serve communities that I have no business serving. You know, I get to serve a community of homeless veterans. I'm not American. I'm not a patriot of America, but, you know, I'm able to learn how to communicate with these people by asking them questions, learning about their story, and then figure out the best way to serve them, best way to get them into some permanent housing. Yeah, the communication side of golf, but also then, you know, we have the way that we practice, the way that we, you know, do our team workouts. Like we had to be dedicated to what we were doing, like balancing 6 a.m. workouts with an 8 a.m. American history class and trying to stay awake in that 8 a.m. American history class. Like you have to be there because you're going to fail if you don't show up, but you have to be able to also be at your workout, and then you have to go and practice, and you have to practice at a high level because, if you're qualifying 3 days a week and you're not working on much sleep, you learn to perform, you learn to balance what's important. And that, again, has put me into a really good place. Being married, we have to balance our family life and work life and friendship and officiating and all of these other things. And being a college athlete really sets you up for success there because you learn to balance much of the same things. Like I said, work is golf and work is also school. So you have to balance both.
Now, golfing at West Georgia wasn't the only thing you were doing. Obviously, you were very active as a student athlete. You got involved with the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, as well as even getting a special opportunity to attend one of the Student Athlete Leadership Forum experiences. But as we kind of dive a little bit deeper, how did you first get involved with it, and what led you to join that committee?
So at West Georgia, we'd had a slow period with our Student Athlete Advisory Committee. As some coaches and some administrators transitioned in and out, it kind of got put on the back burner. And so my junior year, when I was kind of moving up into a captain role with the team, we got the email from our coach that was like, hey, you guys are upperclassmen now. It's time to kind of step into SAC. For me, being able to give back to the community that we live in and play in was already important. I already served at a few different places. And so being able to do that in a more formal capacity was a huge opportunity for me. And I was really lucky that our administrators that led our Student Athlete Advisory Committee were really dedicated to what we were doing, really wanted to see a community of student athletes, right? Bring all of the teams together, bring us into one unit, so supporting each other, but then also wanted to see us give back to the community. And so I got the opportunity to be the president of our Student Athlete Advisory Council at West Georgia for 2 years. Had an awesome committee of players from a bunch of different sports. I got to learn about the ins and outs of baseball training, and got to spend some time with guys that are now playing in the MLB. And so it was cool to spend time with people and hear about their different training and the different mentality that goes into that. But also, we got to learn what was important to them, right? Like, how can we support the baseball team? How can we support the football team? How can the football team support us, right? These 6'8", 280-pound guys showing up at golf tournaments was quite unique and supporting us. But that's how I got involved, and it was a really rewarding experience. We served, again, at homeless shelters. We served in the local community with readathon, going into elementary schools and reading to the kids. We were at food banks delivering food to people that needed it. And so to see the athletes out in the community giving back, people don't see that very often. And so it was really cool to be able to plan that, to be able to learn how to manage the budget, but then also to be able to figure out how to get all of these teams really excited about giving back to the community and supporting each other.
Now, through those experiences as well, and as that continues to build on who you are as a person today, you think about some of the other opportunities you've also had through being part of that SAC committee and just the experiences you've had. And that leads us to our next piece about the NCAA Student Athlete Leadership Forum. As somebody who also was able to go as a representative of the GSC last year, it truly is quite an honor when you are representing your conference and representing your group to be able to go and learn some things. So first question we have on that is just take us through that process of how you were selected for SAF and just when you first heard that you were going to be the one that was going on that trip and just kind of your initial excitement to experience something that's an exclusive opportunity.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's still one of my favorite trips, one of my favorite learning opportunities that I've had, and I've had some really cool ones. And gosh, the NCAA did a great job. Let's start with that. They put us in a fantastic hotel in Washington, D.C., and we had some amazing speakers. And so what a great job they did. But the opportunity came about. The Gulf South invited Student Athlete Advisory Council members to apply, I believe from all the schools. And, so you got your application together. There's kind of a personal statement in there and a bit of your resume and why it would be important. And then we sent that to the Gulf South office. And a few months later, we heard back that a few of us had been invited. It was me, I believe a track athlete from Montevallo, and then somebody I think from West Alabama was there, and then someone from the Gulf South office. And gosh, it was a really exciting email. You got the email like, hey, you've been selected by the Gulf South to attend this thing with the NCAA. Here's the portal to book your flights. And I got to book them like with whoever I wanted. I was like, this is great. We'll fly Delta. Like, it'll be awesome. And then they send you the hotel, and we were really lucky that we got to play amazing golf courses and travel to some cool places. But we're staying in 2-3-star hotels, which was amazing. I was blessed to be able to do that. But they put us in a 5-star hotel, so you see the email of where this hotel is on the water in DC, and you're just like blown away before you even got there. And so it was just being selected was a massive plus, and then the experience that came from it. I'm curious, when you were there, do they still do the team building rock paper scissors thing?
They did, actually. And unfortunately, with the team that I was on, we got eliminated within the first round. So there was a total of 9 colors when we did it. I mean, obviously, through several years, of course, things have been different, but they still do the rock, paper, scissors. For me personally, I was out like literally the first round, like a one and done deal. So, we have that connection. I like it. But I think to that point, though, it was exciting to see them come together near the end, and just, as you're dwindling it down, you have your champion from your group, you're playing another champion from another group, and it's an exciting experience to see everybody come together in that regard.
Oh, it is. It's funny. I use that same technique when I'm going into new clients to kind of break the ice. We did a really awesome strategy session with a massive multinational nonprofit last year, and you could feel there was some tension in the room when I walked in. Right, who's this guy? Who's this consultant that they're bringing in? And these executive leaders, these guys and girls that have been in business for 30, 40 years. There's a weight to having these conversations, and you ask them all to stand up, and they're like, okay, what are we doing? Are we gonna introduce ourselves? Are we gonna say one interesting fact? And then you tell them to turn to their neighbor and just play rock, paper, scissors, and whoever loses has to be the cheerleader for the other person. Like, that breaks the ice so quickly. And to see people get so excited about that, and to get to see a childish side of people that doesn't normally come out, is what a great, one simple thing that the NCAA Leadership Forum told both of us is how rock, paper, scissors can break down barriers and create energy in a room really quickly.
We'll transition over towards getting back into the conversation of how you first started refereeing. First question I do have to ask, though, Dan, is you were a golf guy growing up, and all of a sudden you get into refereeing soccer. So I got to ask, what drew you to reffing soccer? Like, was soccer also something you grew up with, or was it just something where it was just a natural transition? Or tell us a little bit about how that came to front.
Oh, it was just a power trip. I really was just craving. I'm kidding. That's all the time. I grew up in England. I played soccer, football at an academy, one of the Premier League academies, and got injured. And so that ceased at a very young age, but still stayed involved in the game. Growing up, played rugby, broke my elbow, so then ended up playing golf, but still involved in the game. And I started refereeing at 14 in the UK. Again, just a way to get some extra cash on the weekends before I went and played Sunday league with my friends. Moved to the US, the officiating stopped. On a student visa, you're unable to work outside of campus, but I did get to referee through intramural sports still. And so that was a cool way to stay involved. And then when I graduated and got my work authorization, and now I'm being married, that kind of opened some more doors. And so I'd always been involved. And when I started my business, we were investing everything back into the business, and I needed to make some extra cash. And so I looked at officiating, and I think America might be the highest paying place for sports officials in the world. At the youth level, you're making up to $110 for a game. And so it started off as just a way to make some extra money while still being involved in the game, and it turned into a passion. Being able to meet new people, my community is now in the referee space. I go for dinner with fellow referees. We travel with fellow referees. We host referee families at our place, and we went to the Nutcracker together this year. It's become a community. And so, that transition is weird. We don't really have rules officials in golf. They show up every so often and drive their golf carts around. So it was a weird transition. And when people on the pitch asked me, I remember last year I was at Auburn Montgomery, and one of the kids was like, oh, how did you, why are you here? Why did you come from the UK? I said, oh, for college. I said, oh, where did you play soccer? I said, oh, I went to school at West Georgia. They're like, I don't have men's soccer. I was like, yeah, I played golf. They're like, well, why are you refereeing soccer? So this question is a regular one that I get asked, but I just say it's for the passion. I love the game. I love to stay involved. And then the money was great. And now it's the place I get my competitive edge out. I still play golf, but it's 90 minutes of me focusing on giving the student athletes the best experience that I can give them, calling a game that I believe is fair and safe and competitive, and figuring out how to communicate with these guys in a way and girls that resonates with them and keeps them engaged in the game. But then again, we switch off, we recap, we go through our game footage, and we show up the next day to do an even better job. And so that's how that journey happened. And so Georgia does a really good job of taking people at the high school level, moving them to the club level, and then moving them to the college level. And so,
speaking of which, you had an opportunity to attend a referee showcase experience recently. And that's just like the Student Athlete Leadership Forum. This isn't something that not everybody gets an opportunity to see, or it's a select group. So talk to us a little bit about just that experience for you and just what you've gained out of that special endeavor.
Yeah, I've been blessed, lucky, call it what you will, to be selected for some really fantastic tournaments. I went to the NAIA National Championship 2 years in a row now. There's 8 of us that are selected. And that was fantastic. I mean, we had a former MLS referee there coaching us. We were refereeing literally the pinnacle of the NAIA men's calendar. These games are fast and physical and freezing. We were in Wichita. It was like, it was snowing. So that was also something we had to get used to. But that was awesome. And then 2 years ago, I was at the Gulf South semifinals and finals down in, I think it's in Huntsville. And Same thing, we had some awesome mentorship, and we got to use video review. That was when it wasn't used at the Division II level. And so you guys were like pioneers in that, with goal line technology and multiple camera angles, and got to work with guys that are now working in the MLS. And so we, again, got this feedback that we don't usually get. People think that referees just show up, do our job, and then go home and don't care about it, right? We just blow our whistle, point, give yellows, give reds. Like, that's not the case, at least not the case at the collegiate level, and definitely not the case in the Gulf South. We get done with our game, we debrief with our crew, we watch our game film, and at these showcases, you have someone else watching the game film with you. And so, at Gulf South, at NAIA, we have professional referees that are MLS, NWSL, USL Championship referees that are watching this with you and helping us improve. Because again, we want to get better. We want to drive to improve so that we can create better and better playing environments for the players.
And it's so great that you've mentioned that too, Dan, because the next question that I had for you is, what do you think athletes often not realize about the referee's perspective? So essentially, what would you wish that athletes and coaches could understand coming from your perspective when you're officiating games, just some of the challenges and pressures you have to handle?
That's a really good question. And I think it varies on an individual basis. But in general, I think there's a few things that the student athletes and coaches may not know about officiating or officials. One is that during the college season, the best of the best are very busy. People that referee at the Gulf South level, which is, I think, at the top of the Division II soccer level, and then above that at the Division I level, we're doing sometimes 6 games a week, and that's stressful. And we show up and we do our very best every time we step on the field. But it's a mentally exhausting job. We not only carry the pressure of ourselves, but also of our assigners. Mark Harrington is the assigner, the director of officiating for the Gulf South. And if we make a mistake, it doesn't just reflect badly on us, it reflects badly on him. And it reflects badly on our community of referees. And so we carry that pressure into every game. And I think what the student athletes may not understand, and the coaches, I think, have a good understanding of this, is that we're battling for postseason just like they are. Like if you're competitive, like I talked about earlier, I am competitive. We want the best games that we can get, just like the players want to get to the final. We want to referee the final. And if we make a mistake, that's our opportunity to referee the final out the window. And so if a player misses a one-on-one, they might get 10 more opportunities. But if we miss a foul inside the penalty area, especially if we don't have video review, like we may not get another opportunity to correct that decision. We may not get another opportunity to do a game at that level. You make a mistake in round 1 of the NCAA tournament, you aren't getting a round 2 game. And so I think when we do these games, players often think that we don't care about the result, or we're there to create issues for them, is the most polite way I can put it. Or that we may have favorites, or we're purposely missing decisions. But every game is on camera. Every game is being watched by somebody on our side, like, to evaluate us. And so I think if they understand that we're carrying that pressure of performing just the same way that they're carrying the pressure of performing, I think that might help them take a second step before they shout at us, or before they assume we're being biased, or before they, whatever assumptions they may make. I made them as a player too, so I get it.
From your perspective, what makes GSC soccer compared to other levels you've officiated so competitive and just so unique?
Oh, there's so many things. Firstly, the professionalism. The coaches act in an extremely professional way. The conference expects the highest level of professionalism from them. The assigner expects the highest level of professionalism. And so stepping into that environment where they're treating, I've refereed at the professional level. And when we step out on the Gulf South field at one of the institutions, we're wearing the communication devices that we get at the professional level, which are better than most Division I schools have, which is mandated by the Gulf South. So that's fantastic. So for us, that shows that they're matching the standard at the very best professional level. But in terms of competition, I think the recruiting is top notch. They have players from all over the world. There's players that are transferring in from Division I schools. There's players that are coming from academies, professional academies. The coaching is at a good level. They play tactically. They play strong. It's a physical conference on both the men's and the women's side. These conferences, the conference games are probably the most physical I referee all year, even Division I level, which makes it exciting. I think the players enjoy that. The fans enjoy it. The coaches demand it. They demand a more physical approach. And so, yeah, it's exciting. And the talent is fantastic. I mean, a lot of the guys that graduate from Gulf South, the girls, guys that graduate from Gulf South, go on to play professionally, semi-professionally. When we referee the semi-pro leagues over the summer, we see a lot of the guys from the Gulf South Conference competing, which is also cool, right? To be able to reconnect with them in the club level. So I think the whole environment that's created by the Gulf South and then the member institutes gives the Gulf South that really high competitive edge. I mean, last year there was multiple teams in the NCAA postseason on men's and women's side from Gulf South, and that's a testament to the competitive nature of the conference. And really cool for us to be able to say, hey, I officiated these schools that are now competing in the quarterfinals, semifinals, finals of the NCAA. Like, that's exciting for us too, just like it's exciting for the players.
I can only imagine. I got a good friend who does the same thing for volleyball and baseball as well, and he's basically mentioned the exact same thing as you did, between competitiveness and also knowing that the quality of contests that you're officiating or just umpiring it's quite a stretch, in the sense of it's one of those things where you guys are competing, but through that, you also get to gain the experiences, you get to meet some good people and get new opportunities that come through that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm sure it's the same in all jobs, right? Like, if you get the opportunity to broadcast an NCAA playoff game, that's a privilege for you, right? If someone calls you and says, hey, I'd love for you to be the host broadcaster for this, or the announcer or whatever, you're like, whoa, that's a huge privilege. And it's the same when we get the call. I got a call to officiate AUM against UWF, which is a huge matchup. And that's a privilege for me, right? Like, that I am trusted to go out there and try and do my best to give them an environment to play safely and to play positively and competitively. And, one of those schools is probably, they're in the top 25 in the country every year, right? And it's the same with multiple Gulf South schools. We get the call to go over here or over there. And, it's a privilege for us. And I know plenty of officials that feel the same way, that will block their calendars from Division I games to go do a Gulf South game because they learn a lot on it and it's a competitive game. And so it's a testament to what is offered at a lot of these member institutions.
And Dan, now that we've talked about quite a bit of stuff from a soccer refereeing standpoint, and I know we could be here all day just discussing some of the more valuable pieces, and just there's so many great things to talk about when it comes to just the opportunities with reffing and what the Gulf South Conference means. But speaking of opportunities, let's shift a little bit back towards the community side of Dan Benson. We talked earlier about you being the director of Mighty Hero Homes, which helps combat veteran homelessness. So talk a little bit about how you first got involved with them, just from a business client standpoint, and just what drew you to their mission statement.
Yeah, I'm lucky to serve with them as a director of special events. And the founder, Drew Walston, also not a veteran. He is American. He is definitely a patriotic American. But no one that served that country should be homeless. These people went to war so that we could live in a country that is safe from a whole host of things. And for them to come back and not have a house to live in they had a house to live in, but for them to have to go through mental health crises, that means that they no longer have a place to live, or for them to not be able to transition into a job when they leave the military, so therefore don't have the funds. It struck a real chord with me. I live in Midtown Atlanta. We see a lot of homeless people around where I live, and a lot of them are veterans. And so for me to be able to give back to the community, to help these people find either temporary or permanent housing, the mission for Mighty Hero Homes is to permanently house homeless veterans. And so it's not transitional housing, it's not a temporary stop, but this is going to be their house forever. For me, that resonated not only from a moral standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. They're not trying to raise eternal funds, but they're trying to raise enough funds to be able to provide someone with their permanent house, and then move on to the next one and to the next one, and build these bases so that they can live in community with one another. I mean, community is what we all thrive for. I talked about it from refereeing, I talked about it from golf. These veterans want the same thing. And so they're building bases, quasi bases for these veterans. They're providing them with training for jobs. They're providing them with mental health care. And for me to be able to be a very, very small part in giving these veterans a permanent place to live and in an economically responsible way was too good an opportunity to pass up.
Piggybacking off of that, you mentioned in your bio, and one quote that stood out to me as you were, mentioning and what you're doing is, giving is the only path to receiving. Where did you first hear of that? Or just talk to us a little bit how that quote came to come about and how you've lived by that with what you do.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably mentioned somewhere in the Bible. I probably paraphrased it. But I think I've heard many, many successful entrepreneurs, business people, CEOs say the same thing. I think when we give with an open heart, often you're able to receive with an open mind. And so, in my opinion, the only way for me to grow is to be able to give people what I have. And sometimes that's time, sometimes that's money, sometimes that's advice. And so I don't know where I first heard it. I'm going to go with church, probably. It sounds like something I would have heard at church. But I've had many mentors of mine say the same thing. And so, my wife and I, we give to multiple nonprofits. I give back to West Georgia. They just built a new wedge range for their golfers. And so we were able to provide some stuff for that. And it's not my resources anyway. So it's not mine to steward and gatekeep, and what I've been blessed with, I should definitely give back to other people. And then if you do that, you will receive in abundance from your friends, from the people that you give to, from your spouse. In a business sense, I think, businesses, you see all the time, businesses grow as their founders and their employees spend time, giving money, giving resources. And so, yeah, and it makes me happy. I think giving to people is a beautiful way to bring joy to those around you.
One follow-up comment I'll make on that is just, it's a certain level of joy that you receive when you're doing it right. And that's where the true genuineness comes of it. You're not doing it to gain attention. You're not doing it to try to get some kind of added benefit to it. It's no transactional deal. You're doing it because you felt led to do it, and it's part of your heart's desire to give back to other people.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the Ryder Cup is happening, and it's those golfers are giving back, and a lot of people don't know where those golfers give their money to. They've said that they gave their money back, and they're not doing it in a way that shows any publicity to them. But you saw the joy on their face when they said that, because they do. I believe the people that are generous are usually the happiest people, because you can only give out of joy. If you're giving out of anything else, then it's a waste of time.
Dan, we want to thank you again for taking some time to just be with us and just sharing your side of the referees. But before we go, we have to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions just to get some different personality pieces out of it. First question we do have is, out of all the GSC soccer venues you have been at, which is your favorite one to officiate?
Oh gosh, I can't answer that, because if I show up at the rest of them and the coaches have listened to this, I'm going to get some abuse. they're all special in their own way. AUM has one gentleman that is, I think he's also British, in the stands, and he shouts from the very beginning of the girls' game to the very end of the boys' game. And that's special. He is, to see someone from the community. You ask the players, "Who is this guy?" And they're like, "We don't know. He's just some guy from around here that loves soccer." And so that's a really cool venue to go to for that. Montevallo has a big crowd that shows up to most of their games. It's a tight enclosed space. So that's a really fun place to go. Shorter, which is no longer a Gulf South team, but they had a really unique venue. It was very tight up there. And honestly, John Hunt Park, where the finals are, that pitch is so perfect when we go out there. And the Gulf South do a really great job of providing us with the very, very best of technology to make our job easier. But also, it's a central location, so a lot of fans come in. And then if you ever get the chance to go to West Florida, it's always nice because it's you usually get to stay by the beach. So although the venue is nice, the added bonus of where you get to spend some time is there.
Speaking of beaches, what would be considered your favorite vacation spot?
Oh, gosh, can I give two answers? Just one. I'm gonna go with South Africa. I just went to on safari in South Africa over the Christmas break, and it's pretty special seeing these animals in their natural habitat. But also, it was like so cheap. Like coffee was less than $1, a steak dinner was less than $10. I was like, wow, like this is really cool. So it's a cool experience.
And as we're talking about just cool experiences, shifting back towards soccer a little bit, describe the most memorable match you've had to officiate in your career, GSC wise.
GSC wise, the women's semifinal a couple years ago was a big one. Actually, I'm gonna tell you the most memorable one, not because of the game, but because of my lack of preparedness. So, Mark, you didn't hear this story, but we drove to Lee University for a game. That's another great venue. They do a really fantastic job, and they always give us water and Powerade. So, thank you, Lee, for providing for us, and a Snickers, which is great. And I showed up without my shorts, which is a key part of our refereeing equipment. And I looked at my teammates and I said, "Do either of you guys have spare shorts?" And they said, "Nope, sorry, buddy." This was when I first started officiating in the Gulf South, and so it was a while ago. And so I have my black sweatpants on, and so I roll my black sweatpants all the way up to make them into these short shorts. And I walk out, and I look at the coach from Lee, and I tell him, and he's like, "Okay, cool." I look at the coach, I think it was West Alabama with the same team, and I said, "Hey, just so you know, like in case these fall down, like this is what's happened." And everyone was laughing about it. And about 20 minutes into the game, I miss a call in front of the West Al coach, the Lee coach, or he thinks I've missed a call. And instead of yelling, "Oi, ref," or "Oi, Dan," since he knows my name, he was like, "Oi, shorts," and then proceeded to throw some abuse at me. And so now every time I see him, so that's where that started.
That's awesome. No, I mean, like it's amazing though. Like when you least expect it, like just unpreparedness, and it's like just the quick wit of coaches or other people. They pick up on that, and then that's part of just that jousting and the jab and the comments that they make throughout the game. It's like you can't put a price tag on it. I mean, that's what makes things so memorable.
Exactly, and we're all human, right? I think that was the beautiful thing about it, was that like it got brought back to a human level. Oftentimes when we're refereeing, it's them versus us. People believe it's them versus us, but we're like, guys, we're just humans. And so when coaches add a little bit of sense of humor, and it really lightens the game up and allows us all to remember that we're just human beings doing the thing that we all love.
Absolutely. And then one last question we have is, if you could officiate another GSC sport besides soccer, which sport would it be?
We always make the joke that we'd like to do volleyball because it's inside, it's air conditioned, and you don't have to run. But I think I'd really love to do basketball. Gulf South schools and football, but Gulf South schools get a big show out for their basketball games. I mean, you've seen the arena at West Isle. That thing is always packed. Same for West Florida. They get a massive show out. And I think it'd be really fun. You have to be so locked in, and you get to do every position, right? Everybody's refereeing at the same time. I think that'd be really fun. And again, they're competitive games. So I'd go with basketball.
Maybe that might be a shout out for the other coordinator officials, for Tasha Smith and John St. Clair as well. If you need a backup referee who's always looking to try to expand his skill sets, you got Dan Benson right here. Well, Dan, thank you so much again for for being with us here. Again, great episode, fantastic stuff as part of Officials Appreciation Week. And we're looking forward to just seeing you out there. If you see Dan Benson out in Huntsville this year, just make sure to say a hi, hello, and always looking to connect with other people.
Thank you. And just one last shout out, if I may, for any student athletes that are graduating this year. We need more officials, not just in the Gulf South, but across the country. And so it's a great way to stay involved. You might not get to go back and referee at a Gulf South school if you're a Gulf South graduate in the first couple of years, but it's a great way to make some extra money and stay involved in the sport. So reach out to me, reach out to Mark Harrington. I'm sure reach out to the Gulf South office if you're interested once you've graduated in giving back through officiating.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Inside the GSC. Don't forget to hit like, share, or subscribe wherever content can be found so you won't miss highlights, stories, and more. So long for now, and we'll see you back here next time on Inside the GSC.